is our time.
Hello and welcome back to another Pony Mag video. Today we are going to be baking, and we are going to be baking a super cute pony stable cake with two tiny little ponies inside. I've made a cute little hay bale, and it's a super fun bake, so we really hope you'll enjoy making this. This would be the perfect bake for the summer holidays, or if you've got a pony mad bestie who's got a birthday coming up, or you just fancy celebrating them, then this would be the perfect cake to make. It is super cute, super fun to make. There's lots of different elements to get stuck into and to get crafting, so come along and follow along with us and see how we made it. Here are all the ingredients you'll need for this recipe. You can pause the screen to see the checklist if you need to, or check out the caption below for the full list of ingredients and recipe. The first thing I'm going to do is weigh the flour and set this to one side for a little bit later. Next, you weigh the butter and the sugar together, and then you give these a really good mix with the electric whisk until they're nice and light and fluffy. Once the butter and sugar has been mixed together, you can start to add your eggs, and it's at this point that when I add an egg, I like to put in a spoonful of flour, and this just helps the cake mixture from curdling too soon from too much liquid. So I add 1 egg, 1 tablespoon of flour, and then give it a good mix with the electric whisk. At this point, I'm also adding in the vanilla extract. Then once all of your eggs have been added, you can then go in and mix in the rest of the flour. And I like to do this with a spatula so that you fold in the flour so you don't knock too much air out of the mixture, because this makes for a nice, light, fluffy sponge. This recipe calls for a splash of milk, so I'm adding it at this point to make the mixture a little bit more loose. The next thing you want to do is line your cake tin. So I like to use greaseproof paper, and I scrunch it into a ball so that it makes it easier to fit into the circular tin without having to cut it. Now it's time to put your cake into the cake tin. So you can either do what I've done and just use one cake tin and put all of the mixture into this, or you can separate it into 2 different cake tins, and this will mean it cooks a little bit quicker. Once your cake is fully baked, it's time to get it out of the baking tin and onto a cooling rack. And you want to make sure that your cake is completely cool to the touch before you start doing any icing to it. In the meantime, you can start to make your icing. So I've now started to weigh out the butter and the icing sugar ready to make the buttercream. When you first put the electric whisk into the butter and icing sugar, I like to cover it with a tea towel, because sometimes the icing sugar can absolutely go into a massive cloud and go everywhere. So it's good to put a tea towel over the top just to make sure that it stays all in the bowl and doesn't make too much mess. But if you're not worried about mess, then go ahead. The next step is to roll out the green fondant icing. So this will make up the grass of the bottom layer of the stable. So what you want to do here is make sure you've got lots of icing sugar down on the surface, because otherwise it will stick. And then you want to roll this out quite thinly, about 1 centimetre thick. And then you can cut this into a circle once it's on the cake. But you want to roll this out with lots of icing sugar to make sure it doesn't get stuck. Once your cake is completely cool, now's the time that you can start to cut into it if you've done it all in one cake tin, or you can start to ice it if they're in 2 separate cake tins. Now in this section you can really use whatever filling you like, but today we've gone for jam and buttercream. So you could use lemon curd, marmalade, you could use whatever flavours you really like. You could even use chocolate spread if you really wanted to. Once you've filled the inside of the cake, I'm then putting a thin layer on the top of the cake, and this is to make sure that the icing has something to stick to once I lay the fondant icing on top. Now it's time to lay the fondant icing over the top of the cake. So what you could do here is cut a circle already out of the shape of the cake tin that you've used to bake the cake. But what I did here was lay it over the top and then cut around to the shape of the cake. And don't worry about any little cuts that may go wrong. You can always just squidge these back together, because thankfully fondant icing is quite squishy, so you can just smooth it over again and you'll never know what happened. Now it's time to start making the structure of the stable. So I'm starting by using these chocolate covered breadsticks, but you could use anything that will stand up. You could use chocolate fingers or just normal pretzel breadsticks. And then you want to put these into the cake in a stable-like shape. You want to make sure that these are all pressed down into the cake to the same height, because what you're going to do is lay some biscuits over the top to make the roof. So you want it to be a nice level amount. So I've just pushed them the whole way through the cake to the very bottom, but obviously depending on what height you want to make your cake, you could do whatever height you like. I've also just measured how many breadsticks I'll need by getting 2 biscuits that are going to make up the roof and laying them across the side to see just how many I'll need and whether I need to keep making some more. Now I've just added a few more breadsticks for some extra structure to hold the roof up. And now it's time to make the horses' heads to go over the stable doors. So you can make your horses into whatever shape, size, colour you would like. I have gone with a bay and a grey. And you can just do this by squishing the icing into a nice ball and then shaping it into a horse's head shape. I have decided to anchor these onto the biscuit stable door by making a sort of hook-like thing. But you could do this by using a cocktail stick or any other method that you prefer, really. But this was just what I found to work really well. And we'd love to see your different variations of ponies that you come up with. So please do send us in your photos. We would love to see. Here I've just used the end of a teaspoon to make some nostril-like shapes onto the pony's noses. Now it's time for the rest of the decoration. So I'm just taking the green icing and spreading it around the sides of the cake, and this will help my fencing icing to stick to the sides as well. Then I'm putting the remainder of the green icing into a piping bag, and this will be to pipe some green grass decorations later on. To make the fence icing, I have rolled out some chocolate fondant and then I have sliced it into strips, and then I've cut at equal measures a slice out of it to leave a post and rail effect of the fencing. Then you can wrap this round the cake using the green icing to stick it on. And don't worry too much if there's lots of icing sugar on this. What I've done here is just dip my finger in some water and wipe off the excess sugar. Now I'm going in with the green icing sugar, and I've got a piping nozzle that's got lots of little holes in it so that it's giving a grass-like effect. Now to make my hay bale, I've just taken a little ball of white icing and added some orange food colouring to it, and then I'm going to mix this together and mould it into a hay bale shape. I've used a knife here to add some little details into the hay bale to make it look like it's got some individual strands of hay in it. So you can just keep going with the knife until you've got as many strands as you think looks nice, but it just adds that tiny bit of detail to make it look a little bit more realistic. I've then gone in and done the same, but with some red food colouring. I've rolled the red icing into thin little strips and rolled them right up so that they look like twine onto the hay bale. And then I've just wrapped these over the sides. I'm going to very carefully lift this up and give you a little sneak peek, because how cute is this cake? I really hope that the team at Pony HQ are going to love this. So come along with me to take this to the office and see what their reactions are. So I've managed to get the cake into the office, safe and sound, hopefully. Are we ready for Lucy's reveal? Because she's not seen it yet, so are we ready?
I'm so excited.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Da, 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 da.
Stop, that's so cute.
And there you have it.
That's so cute.
Our two little ponies in their
It's so
stable.
green.
It's very green.
I love it. And the little hay bale. So
Yeah.
cute.
Lots of grass.
So much detail. Love it.
Well, we're going to eat it now, so
wait.
let's get cracking
tuck
into
in.
it. Yeah. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Steady. Oh, there's no going back now.
No.
How big a slice would you like? Would you like this flour?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, ready. Way! Look at that. Thank you so much for watching our video. We hope you enjoy, and make sure to send us any photos of your cakes because we really want to see what you made, and follow along for the next video.